Good morning. My name is Cheryl Ollmann, and I'm Director of Academics and Instruction at the Brighton School in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Our little school serves students who have been diagnosed with dyslexia or some other language-based learning difference. Many of our students also have secondary diagnoses, including ADHD, anxiety, or other related learning differences. We thought that during this time of great transition from schooling at school to schooling at home, we might offer some skills and tips and strategies that we focus on here at Brighton. Not only will these skills help students across the nation with learning differences, but they will also help support students who are neurotypical students but need some additional supports, being as though they're being schooled at home rather than schooled at school. Today, we're going to talk about one of our executive functions. Now, executive functions are these broad-based skills that we all develop throughout the course of our lives. They can be taught, they are not innate, and they must be developed in order for our kids to be successful. We have developed as adults our executive function skills over time, and I'm sure you might think about the fact that some of your executive function skills might be stronger than others. Our executive function skills include our ability to plan, our ability to organize our time, our materials, the information that we take in and that we need, our ability to initiate a task and see it through to its completion, our capacity to overcome an obstacle and work through or even work around that obstacle in order to get to our desired goal, and our ability to self-control, to manage ourselves in a situation so that we can maximize the situation that we're in and make the most of it. So today, being as though many of you have completed the first week of a homeschooling scenario, and still some may be beginning their first week coming up, we wanted to talk about a very important executive function skill, and that is organization. Organization includes organizing our time and organizing our materials and organizing information. But today I'm only going to focus on organization of materials and organization of time. Because without those two, organizing information becomes increasingly difficult. So I want to start by thinking about organization of materials. And that really begins with thinking about where in your home you are wishing your child to work. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. Does your child have a lot of self-discipline? Are they a kid who can sit in their room and get their work done and they need very little assistance from you? Or are they a child that requires you to be right there, nearby, frequently checking in to make sure that they're progressing? Knowing your child, as I know that you do, is going to have a significant impact on where you create and place that learning environment. If your child is highly distracted, consider the fact that you're not going to want that learning environment where there's ample access to any sort of electronics. They're going to need a really quiet space, away from TV, away from electronics, phones, iPads, etc. Yet they may not be able to be in their room. Some other things that you might want to think about is how accessible are they to you? If you're too working at home, you may want to consider having a dual workspace where you and your child is working together in a similar area with similar needs. So, quiet space, near one another. That way you can do quick check-ins, but your child also knows that there's a bit of monitoring there as well. So think about your child, think about what those needs are. I would also encourage you to get their input. Where do you think you would work best in our home and why? So that you can find the right space quickly and that doesn't become an obstacle to your child over the coming weeks of being at home and being homeschooled. The second aspect of organizing materials is just that, the materials, all of the materials that you can think about that your child might need in order to be successful at school or at home, they need to have at their disposal. So one of the things that I would consider if I were homeschooling my child is how am I going to organize all of those tools? Colored pencils, magic markers, writing pencils, ink pens, staplers, paper clips, erasers, glue sticks, scissors, anything like that. How am I going to organize them in a neat and orderly fashion so that that doesn't become an obstacle to our learning and it doesn't become a time eater? So that by that I mean that you've got everything there so your child doesn't have to stop and go, "Oh, I've got to find a glue stick." Stop and say, "Mom, where's some scotch tape? I need to tape something together." Or, "Mom, I can't find any scissors." So having those materials in a nice orderly fashion will save time, eliminate distraction, and help your child feel immediately successful because they have everything at their fingertips. Some organizational tools that you might want to use to organize your materials might include dividers that you use in your kitchen drawers so that those things are easily accessible. You might go back old school and use things like soup cans, coffee cans, those sorts of things. Even cereal boxes cut in half can serve as paper holders, upright paper holders. The thing I would say is label them so that they've got the visual reference to what they're seeing. And so they don't have to think but too much about that. And I know that sounds really simple, but always having a visual cue and having that visual cue labeled, even for any kid, but especially for learning difference kids, is incredibly helpful. So kind of think outside the box. What can you use that you don't have to purchase that you have on hand? But how are you going to structure those materials within the context of your learning environment so that your child has them right at their fingertips? The second piece that I want to talk about today has to do with time, organizing time. Your child's school day is highly structured. It is managed to the minute. They know exactly what's to do when they walk in the classroom. They know exactly what's going to transpire throughout the course of their day. They know exactly when they're going to eat lunch. They know exactly everything that they need to know throughout the course of their day. So that structure of time that they had at school is going to be equally, if not more so important at home. And it's going to be important for you too, so that you have that predictability and consistency and reliability throughout your day. So there's three things that I want you to think about. How do you want to start your day? How are you going to move through your day? And how are you going to conclude your day? So how do you start your day? Well, when school was in session, you had a routine, right? The kids got up at a certain time. They had to be, clothed, fed, possibly bathed if they didn't do that the night before, and ready to catch a bus, hop in the car, get into a carpool situation. Whatever those routines were when school was in session, I would recommend making sure they stay while they're schooling at home. A neighbor of mine who's a teacher and has two young kids, a fourth grader and a kindergartner, said to me the other day, she said, we've kept our routine exactly the same. The kids get up at the same time. They are not sleeping in. This is not vacation. This is school. So they're getting up at the same time and they have certain things they have to do before they come and eat for breakfast. They have to be um, they have to be clothed in their school clothes. They have to be faces washed. They have to have had their teeth brushed. They have to have their backpacks ready to go at the door. And then they sit down for breakfast. The time frame is exactly the same. So at home, they're doing that. They're getting up at the same time. They have to have their beds made, etc., so that when it's time to sit down and start school, which starts at the same time that it started when they were in school, they're ready to go. There's nothing left undone. There's nothing haphazard. So how do you want to start your day? Think about that and make sure that you stick to that every single day as much as you possibly can. The middle of or the center day, how are you going to move through your day? At school, they know that they've got learning blocks of time, and then there's some sort of a break, whether it is a snack time, social time, whether it is PE, whether that break is walking to lunch, walking to art, etc. They know they have breaks inherently built into their schedule. And there's intentionality to that because there comes a time where the brain cannot absorb any more information. The cognitive input has been saturated. So they need that break so that information can be absorbed, can be organized to some extent, and then that frees up cognitive space for the next chunk of learning. And so, what do you want to do? How long are you going to do that? I would recommend no more than 20 to 30 minutes for my, elementary, even maybe my early middle school kids, and no more than an hour for my middle high school kids. At my school, an hour is their regular class time, but built into that class time, we do little brain breaks. They get opportunities to get up and move around and wiggle. And so build those into to that little hour or however long a period of time you determine, but make sure that you're thinking about frequent breaks throughout the day. 30 minutes of work, 15 minutes for snack. 30 minutes of work, 15 minutes to go outside, ride the bike up and down the driveway, run around the house, whatever the case may be, giving them opportunities for break, and then come back into the learning process. If you find that your child functions better, for example, I know some schools rotate schedules so they don't have the same academic period at the top of the day or at the end of the day. Some kids are great in the morning but lag in the afternoon and vice versa. You might want to consider a regular flipping of your schedule. So if English is the first thing in the morning, maybe that's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, math is the first thing in the morning, and play with that a little bit, but keep that basic schedule the same. Think about how you want to conclude your day. Sometimes the conclusion of the day at school can be pretty hectic. I know when I was in the classroom, I always ran long, so I really had to work at getting my kids packed up and ready to go. It was a real skill developer for me to make sure that I ended with a little more time for pack ups so that the end of my day was not quite so rushed. At home, how do you want to end your day? And I would recommend making sure that you have opportunities to reflect and discuss the day that just was completed. What worked well? What were you successful at? What would you change for tomorrow? What is work you still have to do and get completed for tomorrow? That sort of metacognitive thinking is very valuable, but helps kids start to internalize and reflect on how they're managing time, what got in the way, and how can we change that for the next day or the day after that or 2 weeks after that. Remember, that's a long-term goal. Many of us are still working on that as we are well into our middle ages. So make sure that we are patient and we have that understanding that these are developing skills for our kids. And lastly, I would encourage you to make sure you're posting your schedule every day. Make sure that that schedule's reviewed. Make sure you go through it with your kids. And if there's any changes, articulate why those changes are happening. I know for many of our students at Brighton, a change in the schedule is very unsettling and very disconcerting. They like the predictability and the reliability of the same thing happening every day at the same time. So make sure that you're going through that schedule with your kids. Again, a visual reference so that they know what's happening provides comfort and stability and predictability for them. I hope you found this helpful. We're going to be doing these little sessions at least once a week, if not twice a week. Um, they're important for us to share. We know these are new waters for many of you parents out there. And so we want to be as helpful as we possibly can. We wish you the best. Stay healthy. Take care. And we'll talk again soon.